I'm doing Chris's favorite thing, and that is eating while we're recording.
It's not chips though, so it's kind of okay.
Nope. It's Pizzeria Regina. Leftovers from last night, actually. As you can see, it's a good-looking slice, right?
Where is that place?
Polcari's on Route 1.
Oh, okay. Yep.
They do the Regina pizza there.
good.
I actually personally don't really like to eat on the air, but Chris was ready to go, and I'm like, I don't want to delay this, man.
No, let's get it done with.
We've ended friendships, I think, over people eating cereal into the microphone.
Oh, I've definitely stopped listening to shows and movies.
Shows that we were like...
Stop watching movies.
Yeah, shows that we were friends with at one time we're no longer friends with because they eat on the air too much.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you the last time I ate on the air.
Yeah, me either.
But
it's
Welcome
not
back,
super
guys.
gross and
How we
loud
doing?
this time, so it's fine.
no, that's true. That's true. I mean, it could be, but I won't put you through that. I won't put you through that. All right, get rid of that. Welcome back, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. It's Outside the Cinema, your weekly source for movie discussion. Patreon show this week. Should probably bring that information up in front of me so that we credit the right person.
Right?
I was going to say to you before we went in there, I was like, I'll just tell the story when we start the show. So as everyone that listens to the show knows, I live in Wakefield, Massachusetts. Every pizza parlor in town that I enjoy burns down.
Really? You gotta
3.
stop doing that.
3 of them. Pizza Express of New York was my favorite.
Okay.
One of the reasons we moved to Wakefield was how much I liked the pizza there. I wish I was joking. They had a fire there, burned down, did not reopen. Like a year and a half later, Charlie's on Main Street. Not my number one go-to,
Yep.
but one that was in the mix because after we lost Pizza Express, I didn't have another go-to. Charlie's was in the mix. Charlie's burns down. Does not reopen.
Somebody's been watching too much Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I think.
Maybe. And then most recently, Dino's Brick Oven recently featured on the pizza reviews that Dave from Barstool does.
Okay.
Sure you're a big fan of Dave from Barstool.
Sure.
No, you're no, definitely
I don't know
not.
who that is.
Burns down. Well, it didn't burn down. They just had a fire. They said they're reopening.
Okay.
But I mean, 3 pizza places in a town to burn down in the span of like 5 years. That's a lot.
Yeah, and then the last one is going to stay open. I know where I'd start my investigation.
Yes, Wakefield House of Pizza. Garbage crust.
Yeah.
It's like a Greek pizza, which I don't normally have an issue with a Greek pizza. I do prefer an Italian
I
style.
like savory more than
Neapolitan.
sweet for my pizzas generally, too, so I
Okay.
agree with you there.
I can get down with a sweet sauce, though.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm in the mood for it. Yeah.
But yes, I do enjoy a Greek pie. But a lot of the Greek pie, the sauces are just too acidic. So I say Wakefield House did it. I don't do that. I just don't like their pizza.
That's fair. Eventually it'll come
This
out.
week on the show. This week on the show. Imagine if somebody's this is their first show they're listening to. They're like, this guy's eating on the air.
They're talking about food, not movies. What the fuck?
Nobody cares about that anymore, man. Come on, bro. Come on. We got the Celtics and the Bruins each in the second round of the playoffs. There could not be a more Boston week ever.
Okay.
I'm just calling that.
I don't know either.
I don't know. So this week on the show, Jesus, man. All right. I do believe it was Rob. Was this Rob's pick?
Might have been what you told me, yeah.
Yes, Robert. Robert, Bobby, Big Bob, Big Rob,
Yeah.
the Robster. His picks for this week. Oh, no, those were Rob's were last week. I'm sorry, I apologize. His choices were Cruel Intentions 2 and Disturbing Behavior.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I remember that.
So whose are these? Are these?
Let me see if I have it in my...
I think I sent you. Yeah, I did. It's in our text messages if you want to read
Chris. Hey, I have a few picks. Two Michigan-made con artist films, pretty different in time and character, but an interesting look at the film scene here. And then the trailers. Chameleon Street is the first one, and that actually is older than I thought it was. It feels like a mid to late 80s, but it's actually 1990. I know late 80s is 90s, technically, if you want to get, because it's just a couple of years, but it feels like a 70s movie, doesn't it?
I'd agree, yeah.
And then the other one is Buzzard from 2014, which until about halfway through, I wasn't really sure what time period it was supposed to be, but it's definitely not 2014 that it's set in.
I don't know, man.
Well, it feels, you know what? We should talk about that when it's going, when we're doing it.
Good point.
Because there's plot points, I think, that are relevant to that whole thing. But I watched the trailers for both because this time I wanted to know what I was getting into because I don't trust anybody that gives us movies through Patreon anymore.
Yeah, guys, you've ruined your trust with us.
Not that we won't watch them. We're just going to go in prepared this time.
For sure.
So I watched the trailers and I'm like, okay, these look awful. So fine. And I watched Chameleon Street first because I knew that one was on YouTube and like it was super easy for me to find. And the other one was easy too. It was on every free service.
They were both of these super easy to find.
Yeah. And I have to admit, in the first 10 minutes of Chameleon Street, I'm like, this is going to be a fucking chore to get through. Because, you know what? I need to wait on that too.
Well, which one? I mean, which one do you want to start with then? I guess
it could be either because I think they're both going to be interesting to talk about.
Well, I guess we'll start with Chameleon. We can do Chameleon Street first, since it's the older of the two. Right. And these are both Michigan-made movies. So, as we said, excuse me, and now see that's the thing with when I eat on the air. Then I take something to drink, and then I start burping.
You should be like me and just burp all the time, anyway.
Yeah, well, is what it is. Unrelated, I started watching Fallout.
Okay.
I am 3 episodes in,
That's where I am. Yeah.
So far, I'm into it. I
like it, but I'm not super into it because the tone is really weird. It's not a comedy. It's not a drama. It's not an action. It's not sci-fi, but it is all those things all at the same time. And the tone jumps around all over the place, which that happens in real life.
Happen in the games too.
Yeah. But it looks good. It looks very well done. The main actress is great. I'm not liking Max all that much. He's kind of flat right now in up to the 3rd episode, but
yeah, we don't have a whole lot of we just know that he looked up to the Knights.
Yeah.
That's really all we get.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna knock it for that because they got to do development through the other episodes with him. But yeah, I could watch a few seasons of this. I think.
All I want to know is where did Baby Billy's nose go?
Oh, that's easy.
I want them to tell me. I know that it's easy.
Okay, you want to watch it, but I want them, right?
I want to see it happen.
Yeah.
Mel keeps getting mad at me because every time he comes on screen, I refer to him as Baby Billy. Have you watched Righteous Gemstones? No. Righteous Gemstones is really good.
I've heard, yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. And that's his character, Righteous Gemstones, and he's ridiculous. But she gets mad. She's like, I think you're confusing the characters. I'm like, you don't know that. She's like, that's a Max show. This is Amazon Prime. I'm like, they're both Warner. Could be part of a bigger universe.
Could be. Who knows?
Who knows? But yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. Yeah. I'm not super like I played the last couple Fallout games. I'm not like amazed. Well, I mean, if I played more than one Fallout, if I played more than one game in a series, that's like a big deal for me.
Okay.
So I mean, but the last one that took place in Massachusetts,
4, right? Was that part 4?
4 4, I believe. Yeah.
I just restarted that one.
Really loved it because it was so the maps were so true to like here, like you could actually like recognize things and like if you knew where you were going, you could follow like the actual like streets and stuff, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is neat.
So far so good. I know Scott, when he talked about it a couple weeks ago, really liked it. So far so good.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into our first of our feature reviews tonight. We will do Chamelon Street, 1989. I do have a trailer here. I don't know. Is it going to be worth it though? And also, is my Bluetooth even connected? Because probably not. Why would it be, Bill? Oh, yeah, there you go. Not connected. Why is my phone going off? I get so many spam risk calls.
Oh, we've been getting tons.
So many.
I don't know who stole our phone number from what list, but Jesus, my wife gets like 12 a day.
I don't get quite that many, but I've already had, well, I mean, it's 11:46 and I've had 3, I think, today. So anyway,
much for the do not call list, huh?
Yeah, seriously. And I've doubled and triple checked to make sure that I'm on it, and I'm definitely on it. All right, 1989, Chamelon Street. Here's a trailer.
Some people call me Mr. Wonderful. Other people call me William Douglas Street, Jr. Born in a log cabin in the backwoods of Kentucky, young Douglas soon elevated himself from field hand to tiger, from tiger to reporter, and from reporter to doctor, from doctor to co-ed, from co-ed to attorney, from attorney to congressman. When I meet somebody, I know within the first 2 minutes who they want me to be. I need some money.
Make some money.
I mean, I could sit here and make you think you're a genius for correctly analyzing this complex, exotic, notorious Negro.
You know that the white man runs this world?
I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning.
Your credentials are just too amazing to believe.
What would you concoct such a licentious, low-down lie?
I wanted to get the money.
Open your mouth.
This is all just a vacation to you, isn't it?
Prison, a vacation. People ask me if I regret what happened. Sure, I regret it, but you can take my word for it. It's an unforgettable experience. I think, therefore I scan. I know not what I am. I am Chamelon Street.
Okay, there we go.
We need to show you the box. Behind every door is
Where's
a
that
version
even
of your
coming
life.
from? Anyway, all right. Written by, directed by, edited by Wendell B. Harris. Also starring fucking dog. Wendell B. Harris. He did all of this.
Okay.
This is the true story of William Douglas Street, who is. What is the problem,
Your
Bart?
dog has some very, very strong opinions on this guy.
He wants water. His water bowl is empty. I'm going to get him water, Chris. Start telling the people about this film.
Okay. So a little background on this. William Douglas Street, it says here on the internets, is an American con artist and impersonator. His life is the basis of Wendell Harris's 1989 film Chamelon Street, winner of the Grand Jury Prize at the 1990 Sundance Film Festival. He was known as Chameleon and the Great Imposter. He was arrested in 1971 for extortion against the wife of Detroit Tigers Willie Horton. Street's unusual impersonation skills were commented upon by Jet Magazine. Let's see. It said he embarrassed the Detroit Tigers.
You embarrassed yourself in front
of the Tigers.
Derek Jeter.
It says that he really, from the 70s till like 2015 or 2013, like he got away with stuff for a long time. In February 2016, he was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison for identity theft and mail fraud. Over the preceding 46 years, he had, quote, racked up 17 criminal convictions and 6 arrests before pulling off his latest stunt, stealing the identity of a defense contractor who had graduated from Duke University and the U.S. Military Academy. So what we have here is a story.
So wait, you just said that was a 2016 conviction? Yeah. This movie came out in 1990.
I know. That's fucked up, right?
Yeah, I'd say it's fucked up.
And it's definitely the same guy, because, like, it's William Douglas Street Jr., born 1951. So he was 20 when he did his first extortion against with Willie Horton, which is basically after his not really a parole hearing, but a getting out of jail talk, I guess. That's the first thing he does. But then again, the story seems to be told a little bit out of order here and there. But not a whole lot. It's weird. I honestly thought at first that this was not going to be a real person. And then I just typed the name in and I'm like, oh shit, it is a real person. I can't believe everything that this guy did. And there's one specific part that really makes me question a section of the film, I guess.
Well, I mean, it says here, in real life, Street kept the impersonations going for over 46 years. False identifications he assumed, including those of the reporter at Time Magazine, a Houston Oilers wide receiver, an all-star football player from the University of Michigan, a physician at Henry Ford Hospital, attorneys multiple times, and as a first-year medical student at Yale, also part of the staff of the Detroit Human Rights Department, where he posed as an attorney. It's crazy. It's one of those stories when you watch it, you're kind of like, there's no way this is real. Yeah. And then you're like, oh shit, it's real.
Yeah. And this what I'm going to say here is going to play into the next movie. None of the stuff he did would have been possible after computers were starting to be widely used. Once it was easier to do background checks and follow up on stuff, he wouldn't have been able to do a lot of this.
You would think, but then he was convicted in 2016. So
I know. But like, I don't think he would have been able to get a job as an attorney, because there would have been some due diligence so that he doesn't disgrace the practice, right? But that's confusing for me, because, like, if he's an attorney, like, wouldn't you just check his status with the bar?
I mean, yeah, you would think.
But then again, he's so charming. They do portray him as, like, really charismatic and charming and disarming, that, like, you would forget that. He's portrayed as really good at what he does.
Yeah, oh, for sure. I mean, to do it for that long and get away with it as much as he did. Yeah, he's a very smart, very charming guy. I think looking at the story, I think the story is very interesting.
Yeah.
The movie, on the other hand, not to get ahead of ourselves, I wasn't buying it nearly as much as like the history of the actual character. This is, I saw a couple things that were like, like, this is Catch Me If You Can, like, light or something like that.
That's kind of how I described it to my wife, yeah.
Yeah, so we were introduced to him, to Douglas, early on, and he keeps talking about how he doesn't have any money, and he's got a decent job working for his dad installing security systems.
Oh, that's right.
But he's one of those guys that, like, it's never good enough. Whatever he's doing is never good enough. So he needs, whatever the next thing is. And so he starts to scam people, we see 3 specific scammings in the film. The one where he impersonates the doctor, the one where he impersonates the student, and the one where he impersonates the lawyer, on top of him also, like, selling drugs and stuff like that to try to get
Did he actually sell the drugs?
I don't know if he did, but it was implied that, like, he did.
Yeah, it was. They just never... Yeah.
I think that was more so just to kind of build some character traits where like he would do something like that even though he thinks he's above it.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing with him is like he's a textbook narcissist and sociopath because he doesn't give a shit what anybody thinks. He's going to do what he needs to do for himself. Meanwhile, he could have actually succeeded if he did shit legitimately.
Well, that's kind of like the age-old tale for high blue-collar criminals is they're usually brilliant and they could go to these schools and like we see him when like the first time he gets popped to go in jail, like doing all of the studying and like, reading up on things and, we know that he's a brilliant guy. He just doesn't want to take the time.
Yeah, it's the application of the intelligence that
it's the easy out he wants.
Yep. But it's not easy. And like how good is it for you to be living a lie and have to constantly be looking over your shoulder to make sure that the lie's holding up? Meanwhile, you could just go and do that and not have a problem. Right. So it's really interesting that he's smart enough to be able to do these jobs, but he's not smart enough to do it stress-free, which is a bad way to say it, but you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean. Yeah. I mean, and you see it right off the bat where like the first one that they show us is he impersonates the Time magazine writer, but his intention is to get this interview with this really popular female basketball player from the time period, and he gets the interview and he does the interview, and by all notes the interview is going well, but his downtaking is when her sister realizes that he spelt the name wrong.
Yeah.
So she calls Time magazine to be like, who is this guy? And they're like, we have no idea.
Yeah.
So like his own stupidity ruined him there.
And that's something to take out of it too, is that one, where did this yawn come from? Oh, sorry.
Guessing your belly.
If you're telling the truth, you're not going to make mistakes like that. Or it's easy to say, oh, it was this. It was just a typo or whatever. Yeah.
It's one thing to embellish. It's another thing to outright lie.
Yeah. Mistakes are mistakes, and that's fine. But not in this instance. Not with this guy.
No. And that's so minor into like where he goes.
Yeah.
But then there's the whole thing with the wife too. And the relationship with the wife, what was her name? Deborah?
I don't know, because I'm gonna admit I had a hard time following who he was in relationships with.
Well, he was in a relationship with her throughout the entire film, but just like with the work stuff, she was never good enough. And he kept like trying to move up to other, when he was interviewing the basketball player, he was thinking about how he could get a relationship with her. And then when he's at the school, he's looking at the hot students, and like he's constantly always looking for the next best thing, and then keeps falling back to the wife. And the wife ends up being his undoing in the end of the day.
Well,
anyway.
Of course.
Well, apparently not. Because after the movie was made, he continued to go on for an additional 26 years doing this.
Yeah. I mean, but if you are never satisfied with anything, I don't think that it's everything around you. It's something inside of him that was lacking. And I'm not a psychologist, obviously. I don't need to say that.
You're not.
But I would think that it's his lack of satisfaction with his life. And he just wants that one thing that's going to make it right, but it's not. It's the one thing that would make it right would be him doing it legitimately, being taken as an authority, as a lawyer or a doctor or whatever, and having some respect instead of people just, in awe or whatever of how good he is. That's what I think. I think he's fundamentally lacking something in himself.
Potentially, yeah. I can't disagree with that. But yeah, he's always striving for the next thing. But like then some of these things like he gets himself into, like when he impersonates the surgeon. And like then he gets himself like he writes himself up too high. Like he was Harvard Medical School and he was this and he can do that. And so they hire him for this job at this hospital and then they're like, "Oh, now you got to do this operation on this lady."
Yeah.
And somehow he manages to do it.
Yeah.
But he's found out soon after.
Yeah, now it says in the Wikipedia, but also in a bunch of articles that he did 36 hysterectomies. I don't know. They say it's rumored, it can't be proved, whatever. He claims that kind of stuff. If he actually did that, don't you think they would have tried harder to find him and put him in jail? Because if any,
well, he did go to jail for that. He was in jail after that.
Was he?
He did that and they found him out and then he was arrested. And remember he talked about how the police convinced the lady to sue or they convinced the lady to press charges. And that's when he ended up in prison. It was after that.
Oh, so was that the prison time he's being released from in the beginning?
The very beginning?
Yeah.
No, I think that was different. That was for something else.
Because the guy does he's like, I don't want to see any more of these. And he's holding up like front page of newspaper type stuff. So
I'm guessing, yeah.
I think the one major flaw that's become clear to me with this movie is that it moves really fast and stuff gets jumbled.
Yeah, my biggest issue with it is that it is all very tempered in the way it's told. It's very one note. And it just kind of goes. And the thing with when you're doing kind of like the biography type film, and that's what this is of this guy. I gotta sneeze.
Don't you dare.
All right. Excuse me. All right. So it goes along very one note, and as you're telling the story of this guy, this makes that mistake of trying to tell too many stories. Whereas they're like, this is this guy, and look at all this crazy shit that he did. And it's like, you don't need to show me all of that. Show me one specific instance and tell the whole story through that. And like, I would have rather watched the movie of him impersonating the surgeon.
Yeah.
And him having to go through these multiple surgeries and like cover it up, and then how he eventually gets brought down. And then at the end, they're like, he also got convicted of this, and this. It moves around too much. There's too many things going on. And then the other thing, despite how good the lead is, who is also the director and the writer and the editor, how good a job he does, the film is very like sophomoric and like he's trying to make it arty by using these kind of weird transitions with like trains and then like static shots and this other thing. And then like they're telling the story of the scorpion stinging the turtle or whatever it is at the end. And like, it's like, it tries to get all weird and tries to be like meta and like, that's fine.
I'll admit that the story at the end, probably because it's been told so many times by somebody I just can't fucking stand. That part was kind of boring. Like, I get it. You're telling a story about him, and that's his nature. Fucking get to the point. Like,
I kind of found the whole thing boring.
I was initially just pissed that there was going to be a voiceover through the whole thing. And then about 20 minutes into it, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, this should have a voiceover, because this guy is egotistical to the point where he would narrate the entire movie if he could.
Right.
So that,
and we never see where their narration's coming from.
So so it almost feels like an internal monologue going on.
Potentially, yeah. So
that initially was going to be something that pissed me off, and then I quickly came around to it, and I'm like, yeah, this actually fits the whole style of the movie, of what this guy is, and I was okay with that part.
Wendell B. Harris is the writer and director and star. And from what I can tell, I don't think he made anything else.
Oh.
Hang on, let me look here.
Because, I mean, this is not incompetent. This doesn't say you should stop making movies. It says this is a really good start.
So he's acted in some stuff. Looks like bit parts in Road Trip and Out of Sight.
Okay.
Yeah, he directed Chameleon Street. He had a film in 1986 called Colette Vignette, an award-winning short featuring an interview with actress Colette Haywood. She was in the movie. She was in Chameleon Street. So I don't even. But all right. Okay. So yeah, this is the only thing he ever directed.
Okay.
It's the only thing he ever wrote.
Huh.
And had which I'm going to be honest, that doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
He is not the issue with this film, although I guess he is though because he wrote, directed, and edited.
I mean, the acting too is it fits. It's all. I don't have any problems. I have problems with some scenes. Like there was a scene in a bar where they're all sitting around talking about stuff, and it just kind of floundered. It just nothing happened with it. And I don't remember exactly what the point of that whole scene was. They're talking about setting up another scam, but it was just like there were some scenes that were just like, I don't want to say filler, but you can extraneous.
Say it. I would say it.
And it kind of ruined the flow of what was going on, but not enough for me to like get mad at it because I was still interested to see what is this guy going to do next. So I was,
knowing that Chris is a Michigan guy and he chose these two flicks because they're Michigan made. Like, I get it. I get why you would be like, yeah, these are two that I want to see you guys talk about.
Yeah, the guy's a criminal legend.
But I just couldn't, I couldn't get my teeth sunk into it for whatever reason. And I don't know, man. I was bored. I just it was too just like, beep, beep, beep,
that's
beep,
fair.
Beep, beep. No, like beep, 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 beep. Like I needed more because I started doing the line on the camera and realized no one watches the video of the show. And it would have been like this or whatever. So I changed it to beeps.
Okay.
But it's just too even keels, one note, and there's a lot of racially kind of driven thought processes in this also, which I was not alive in living. Well, I was alive, but I was not living in Detroit at, this time period. So that's not really something I can comment on, but it's definitely kind of like the backbone of this movie. And, a lot of the, African-American people that lived there at the time being, feeling like they were being held down, by the white population, which I'm sure is probably exactly what it was.
Well, yeah, if he's doing stuff in 71, because we do have that one redneck that kind of thinks he's a pimp.
That was bizarre, man.
Yeah, but it's not at the time period, though. Like, he's a well-dressed black man. She's a good-looking black woman. Pimp and whore. That's
yeah.
So, I mean, a pimp doesn't necessarily dress like a 70s version of a pimp. They're not all Captain Kangaroo pimp.
No, he was definitely dressed like a professor at a college.
Yeah, he was a little nerdy. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really have anything else to say unless you do.
I'm all right.
All right, Chris, do you recommend and what is your grade for Chameleon Street?
I am going to recommend this. I liked it definitely more than you did, to my surprise, because I didn't think this was going anywhere. And when it's like quote unquote homemade, which this really isn't, but sort of is, I don't expect a lot from it. So it surpassed my expectations after the first 10 minutes. And then knowing that it's a real person, that made it more interesting for me. So I was more into it after that. So I think I'll give it a recommend, and I'm going to give it a B- because I don't have a reason. It just, that's how it feels this time.
Okay.
I don't know. I got nothing, but
okay.
It just feels like there's a sincerity to it. And we've talked over and over again about how sincerity can carry a film.
Hugely. Yeah,
and I think that's kind of what's going on here. There's a sincerity. Like, I want to tell this story. I think I can do it. And I think I can do all of this. And there's no real like technical failure on any part as a filmmaker. There's a couple scenes that are lit too low, but not all of them. So there's knowledge there, and I'm okay with that. So I'm gonna give it a B-.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I may actually check it out again, just to see what else I can get out of it.
All right. I can't not recommend it. I think, it's got some stuff going on. So I'll give it a tepid recommend. Some people really loved it though, like looking at the reviews and stuff. Yeah. It got some really, really good reviews, and I think maybe it just missed the mark with me. Maybe, and that happens sometimes.
Could have just also been the day you watched it, just not
which was this morning. So.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I was thinking about pizza too much. Anyway, so I'll give it a recommend. I'll give it a recommend with the the caveat of that, like, I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it either. It wasn't like I hated it. I was just quite bored watching it. Not that I needed there to be like action sequences or like any of that stuff, but by the time we got to like there's this big scene that we didn't talk about where he's pretending he's the student at the college, and they have this big masquerade ball, and like he dresses up as Beast from Beauty and the Beast.
That was a good facial makeup that they did for him.
Right, but by that point I'm like, I don't care about that. Like,
yeah, I think maybe if they had focused more just on the job part instead of the relationship part, I think that might have tightened the whole thing.
Well, because they kept bringing the wife back into it, and she kept taking him back. Yeah. And I was just kind of like, I don't understand what we're focusing on here, because you're not focusing on one element enough for me to lock in there.
Yep.
And you're not doing anything that's necessarily going to make sense to me for any of this stuff, but whatever.
Yeah, because usually in situations like this, the wife either leaves or becomes part of it.
Right. She just kept coming back. Like, she kept reappearing. We don't whatever.
Yeah.
So I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I'm going to give it a C. C, borderline C-.
Okay.
So, well, there you go. Chameleon Street.
Yeah.
Let's fast forward about 25 years or so and talk about another Michigan-made film by director Joel Porakis. P-O-T-R-Y-K-S. Porakis? Porakis?
Yeah. What's this?
Mel Rocca?
I don't know.
Straight Rocca? It's called Buzzard.
Yeah.
Here's the trailer for Buzzard.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the party zone. Oh, dude, what are you doing? You like this? Coobs.
Whatever, sit down, Kubiak.
Sorry, Coobs.
Marty, why do you even need this stuff? We don't even have this type of printer.
Store credit or cash?
Come on, dude.
How long was that break?
3 hours.
3 hours? Dude, this job is awesome.
No, it's not. It's bogus.
I have an easy job for you, Marty.
I'll get to it, Carol, but I got a lot going on around here, so.
A genuinely brilliant contemporary satire of workplace frustrations, like Office Space on crack.
You can't just take someone's check and make it yours, man. It doesn't work like that.
There's private surveillance cameras all over my place. Shit. Did 7:30 for Detroit leave yet? Don't call the cops. It's not necessary.
Call the cops. You gotta give me a little more room, man. You gotta give me room.
You've got plenty of room.
No, my wiener is right on the bar.
All right, Buzzard, 2014, starring Joshua Burge, Joel Parakis, Terry Ann Nelson, Jason Roth. Buzzard is the story of Marty. Marty is a scumbag. Lives in small town Detroit suburbs, or lives in a small town Detroit suburb, works for a bank. Mini con artist. Not even con artist isn't really even the best. Just like petty criminal like guy.
Yeah, he's both not smart enough and not imaginative enough to be a street junior. He's a dope.
Yeah, no, this kid's an idiot that's like, again, doesn't want to put any work in for anything.
Yeah, he thinks he's above everything, and he's not aware enough to know that he is below everybody.
Right. So we're introduced to him. He works at a bank. We're introduced to him first where like he's scamming the system. So he's a temp at a bank, like First Federal, I think is the bank that they say it is. So the opening scene is him at another First Federal like branch, closing his checking account.
Yeah.
And then immediately trying to open a new one because they give you $50 to open a new account.
Yeah. And
the guy's like, you just closed your account. And he's like, well, yeah, I'd like to open a new one. I saw that you have a free $50 deposit when opening a new checking account.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, dude, like, get the fuck out of here.
I love he gave up. He's just like, come on, man.
That's exactly how he said it too. And the guy's like, what?
And at that point, you know the kind of person that you're going to follow.
Yeah.
An idiot who thinks he's figured out the loopholes. Yeah.
On everything. So he buys these frozen pizzas and then calls the satisfaction phone number on the back of the boxes.
Yep.
Says that, like there was something wrong with the pizza and they're going to send him coupons to get new pizzas.
Right.
And like he tries to do it multiple times and they're like, yeah, you're already in the system.
Yeah, but
and
that's
like,
that's toward the end when things start really falling apart. Like,
yeah.
Like this feels like, okay, so this is right around the time it seems like that photographing the checks for security started to become a big deal. So somewhere between early 90s and mid 2000s. That's kind of where this felt for me. Like where it fell into place, because by 14 or 15? 14?
2014, yeah.
It's common knowledge at that point that there are cameras everywhere, that you can double check information on a fucking whim. Records are kept much better, but we're talking like right before all that happened, because he seemed to not know that if he deposited the check, he could take all of it out. And I knew I could do that back in 91. So the time frame is weird because he starts off wearing a Nintendo Power Glove. And that's yeah. I'm sorry. I'm just remembering everything that happens in this, and it's so goddamn cringy.
Yeah.
All of it is like,
yeah.
And do you think, and this has nothing to do with the movie itself, but do you think that the best friend that didn't end up getting in trouble, do you think they shaved his head to look like that for the movie? Because it feels to me like they did.
I mean, it's a pretty intense bald look.
It is.
For a guy that I don't think was nearly old enough to have that intense of the ring, like where like all your hair on top is gone and you just have the ring around it.
I don't know. I saw pictures of my father at his wedding, and he had already lost all of it on top of his head. He was 20, 21.
Let me look here.
But it really feels like they shaved him to make him look more pathetic.
All of the pictures I can find of him here, he's like kind of like a he's got a hipster look going. Like he's wearing a beanie.
Okay.
He definitely looks like he has a shaved head.
Okay. Has he done other stuff? Have I didn't look any of this up because I just wanted to talk about just the movie. But...
Yeah, he worked on a movie called Relaxer.
Huh.
Unemployees. So as a director, yeah, something called Pair that's coming out this year. Unemployees 2023.
Well, that's good.
Alchemist Cookbook.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That was interesting. That was a really interesting movie. That's the one where the guy goes into the woods, right? I think
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is.
That was way different than I thought. It felt interesting. Really interesting. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I think the director, though, this guy Joel, I think he seems like a pretty interesting guy. I think he's very much in like the punk rock hardcore scene from Detroit, if I'm not mistaken. Also, big cult movie fan. Kid, the main kid Marty wears a Demons t-shirt through the whole thing, and there's a lot of like posters and stuff.
Oh yeah,
and then obviously
the Italian poster for Return of the Living Dead or Spanish or something.
And he's got we mentioned the Power Glove. He turns the Power Glove into a Freddy Krueger glove.
Yeah, a Freddy Krueger Power Glove.
Yeah, very just bizarre. But Marty, so the big crux of this, and unlike the other film, they focus in on like this one main scheme that he's running, whereas. So Marty's a temp at this bank, and Carol is the bank manager. Like it's not the like he's not like a teller. It's like the mortgage department or whatever. She goes to him and she gives him a stack of checks that are all been returned because either the address wasn't right or mail was refused or whatever reason. And she's like, "Hey, call these people, get the proper address, and put them in the mail. If you can't, give me back whatever you don't mail or whatever."
Yeah. A typical job.
Yeah, like not even a thing. But right before this, we have a scene where Marty's on the phone with his mom, and there definitely is something weird going on with the parents and the family. We never really kind of let into it, but like he's like, "Hey, you sent me a check for my birthday, but you wrote my sister's name on it."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, it's fine. You can just sign it over to you. Just sign it on the back, and then write for whatever purposes, whatever." So then he's like, "Oh. Well, she gave me these checks. I can just sign them all over to me and take the money."
Yeah.
Which, no. No, you can't.
No, because the checks will come back to the business that issued them.
Right.
And your name,
which is the business where he works.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's the dumbest con man that we've covered today.
Yes. Yes.
He is short term. He's not thinking about any repercussions from this. Because what he should have done was have a whole bunch of people and be like, "Hey, I got this check for $50. I'll give you 10 if you deposit it in your account." And then it could be from a bunch of different people.
Right.
And that would throw off suspicion. Not that I'm...
All right, well, you've thought about that too much.
Well, no, it's just top of my head. Do you want me to think about it? I'll come up with something.
No,
great.
I don't. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. But he scams everything. So, he's working on his Nintendo Freddy Krueger glove and manages to cut his hand really bad in the process of doing it.
Yeah.
And then, rather than just, go to the emergency room or whatever, because he doesn't have insurance because he's a temp, he finagles a thing at work the next day to make it look like he cut his hand with the fucking paper cutter, and they send him to the doctor or whatever, and the doctor's like, when did you say you did this cut? And he's like, "Oh, at work today, an hour, maybe 2 or 3 hours ago." And the guy's like, "It looks like it was cut 3 days ago."
Yeah. Yeah, this was the coolest character guy type part in the whole thing, I thought.
Yeah, so the doctor looks at him and goes, "You don't have any health insurance, do you?" And Marty's like, "No." And he's like, "All right." And he lets it slide.
Yeah. Yeah, because he's a doctor and he wants people to be better because he's a legit dude. That part I was actually okay with.
So the other things that we see Marty run is he has the office order him expensive office supplies, which he then brings to Office Max or whatever and returns them for cash. Again, you can't do that.
Right.
Nobody gives you cash back anywhere unless you have a receipt that says that you paid cash for it.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Even then, 2014, you couldn't do that.
Oh no, I mean I'm still with this is at the earliest. At the latest, this is 2002 in my head. I'm going to see what I can find. because go ahead.
So he's returning these like printer cartridges and expensive pens, and like he's got a hookup at the place that gives him the cash back. So now he's like cashing these checks that are not to him. They're to random people that he has no affiliation with other than that he got the checks from where he works. But then he starts to get paranoid.
And the checks are so small too. Each one is like under $100.
Right, $200 at a time or whatever.
Yeah, that's what he was depositing because like he only had $200 in his account.
So his buddy that he works with, this dude Derek, who's also the director Joel, who is just such a fucking loser. Like,
oh yeah,
such a loser. Like he's like, you should come over, man. Come over, hang out in the party zone. And Marty is like, what the hell are you talking about? Oh, the party zone. I redid my basement. It's a party place now where, like we all go and we party.
Yeah, he is literally the douchebag version of Napoleon Dynamite's brother.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Marty now is thinking that he's being followed. He thinks now that he knows that work is going to find out about what he did. Because Derek explains to him, he's like, you can't just cash those checks. Like they're going to get returned. They're going to know that you did it.
Yeah.
And you're going to be fucked. And so then Marty fucking freaks out. He's like, I don't know what to do. So he's like, can I stay with you for a while? Because they're watching my house. No one's watching his house.
No, he's paranoid now because
he's paranoid about it.
Obviously.
Because he's an idiot.
Yeah.
So Derek's like, yeah, okay, yeah, you can stay in the basement. But, like when it's the party zone, man, like you got to understand, you got to be ready to party. And he's like, dude, I don't want to party. And he's like, yeah, but, it's the party zone. So he goes to his house and he's like, all right, man, come downstairs, check this shit out. And like you heard it in the trailer there. And he's like, the lights are all off. And he's like, welcome to the party zone. And it's just one like colored light
from Spencer's.
Yeah. That just twirls.
Yeah.
And that's it.
But in the dark, the dude's like doing fucking curls with his dumbbells.
He's wearing the sunglasses and he's like, what is this loser doing?
People have weird ideas of what they think cool is. Everybody's idea is different. I mean, we got that picture of Elon Musk in the fucking leather armor.
Well, and the whole thing is he's like, yeah, well, man, it's the party zone. No one's coming to this guy's house.
No.
He lives with his dad.
Yep.
And like, he's somehow a 20-year-old guy that has like the baldness of like a 47, 48-year-old man. I mean, like as a guy that's lost a lot of his hair the last few years, like I don't look anything like that. Like, and he's just such a turd. But then Marty is so fucking mean to him.
Oh yeah. Well, even people that are bullied have somebody that they bully, which is fucked up when you think about it.
Really fucked up.
So
Marty crashes in this dude's basement and like he's just mean to him and he's like keeps asking him for money and he's like, did they say anything about me at work today? Or like,
yeah.
And then what was it that happened? They got into a fight or whatever. And then Marty just like pieces out on him.
Oh, because he told the father about the
the check thing.
Yeah.
So then Marty slashes him with his Nintendo Freddy Krueger glove.
Yeah. Well, he hits him with it. Because the whole argument up to that point is, that's not even sharp.
The best part of that whole thing was when he's like, he slashes him with it, and like the dude drops down and he's like, oh my God, oh, it hurts, oh, it's gonna be bleeding, it's gonna start bleeding soon. It's like, it's gonna start bleeding. And then he looks at it and there's like 3 little red lines. And he's like, whoa, man, does that look like that's gonna start bleeding? And the guy's like, no.
I love that. He went from panicked, oh my God, his arm got cut off, to I think it's going to start bleeding eventually. And the way he did that was really good.
Yeah, it was funny. But so Marty then pieces out, cashes a couple of the checks, takes a bus to Detroit, gets himself a hotel room. And this is the other thing too. Like, it's just like, shows how dumb he is. Like, there is no plan. Like,
no.
He just like gets a hotel room and it's like, you should have saved that money for something else.
Yeah. I thought when he called his house and he said he did the whole American Werewolf in London, tell my brother and sister I love them. I just wanted to say hi, blah, blah, blah. I thought he was going to kill himself. So you treat yourself to a lavish spaghetti dinner.
What a terrible scene that was.
Yeah, but it's also kind of fantastic at the same time, isn't it?
That's a word you could use.
It's bold to have.
I get it.
Like
I get it. I get it why they did
take
it.
of a dude eating spaghetti. That was. I was pissed at it first. I'm like, this is gross. This is absolutely. This is kind of funny. Okay, the guy's lost his mind.
Like, the filmmaker in me watches it, and like, he's all nice and clean, and they bring the spaghetti in. And he puts the napkin over. Oh, he's wearing the robe, and he puts the napkin around his neck over the robe. And as he's eating, everything comes out like it starts to fall down, and then he starts to drip stuff on. And it's like a metaphor for like where he started to where he's going to end up.
Yeah, that's his plan.
Like
it was nice and neat. Now it's fucked
everywhere. And then at the end of it, and you can see as he's eating, he doesn't even try to like keep himself clean anymore. Just wherever the fucking spaghetti falls, is wherever the spaghetti falls.
And at the very end, he just laughs about it because he's not paying attention. He's laughing at something else. Something else has
on the
attention.
TV or whatever.
Yeah.
So things take a dark turn where he's trying to cash a check or whatever, and the bank realizes it, and they bring him into the back room, and he's fighting with.
This was like a payday loan place.
Payday loan place, yeah.
Which is essentially a loan shark. He's fucking with loan sharks at this point.
Yeah, so he's in there, and the guy's like, well, man, we just have to wait for somebody else to come. And the guy's like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? He's like, never mind, man. Just give me my ID and my check back. I'm just going to fucking go.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, no, we got to wait. He's
like you can nope out of illegal activity.
Right. But at the same time, too, I'm sitting there, and I'm like, this guy can't make him stay there. Like, he just takes the stuff and gets up and leaves, or whatever.
Right. I'm sure the police would say, do your best to keep him there, because there is, illegal detention that could be, but he also broke the law. And if he's instructed by the cop, it's all gray area stuff. But yeah, he could have got up and walked out, but he's kind of cowed a bit by authority. He doesn't know what to do when he's confronted because he hasn't thought that far ahead. He's just thinking this is going to work.
Right. Exactly. So eventually, though, he realizes the cops are coming, and he's like, well, I got to get the fuck out of here now. So he takes out his Freddy Krueger power glove and slashes it, and he is sharp. So I forgot to mention, when he went to that hotel, he had borrowed a file from the maintenance department and sharpened up the claws of the glove.
Yeah. In the worst, most ineffective way.
Right.
But it seemed to work. So.
Yeah. So he slashes at this dude because he's not going to let him leave, and he slices his throat real bad.
Yeah.
And then eventually gets himself out of it. So now he's not only is he on the hook for like the check cashing thing, now he's like, he may have murdered this guy. We don't know.
Right. I think, given how long and how often they showed him like just suffering from the cut, that he would be okay. Also, the cops were on their way too, so.
Right. Yeah. In all likelihood, but either way, like assault with a deadly weapon.
Oh, 100%. That was they could easily get him on what's it called? Intentional
assault.
And I can't. And never mind.
Anyway, so he boots his way out of there, and he's like slumming in a hotel, and then he goes and makes a key of the hotel room, and immediately gets caught. Like, just now at this point, everything he's doing is just not working because he's not thinking through on anything.
No, and all of his stuff is reactionary to it. He's not like the guy in the other movie where he has a plan and he has an out and he knows what to do.
So now he's kind of on the run. He calls Derek, the guy that he was staying with, and is like, hey, man, like, has anyone said anything to me or said anything about me? Has Carol said anything? He's like, oh, no, man. He's like, Carol got fired. And Marty's like, she got fired? He's like, yeah, she's gone, man. And so now he takes that as, oh, well, everything's fine now.
Right, because she won't see it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But then they do this scene where like he's walking away, like he runs and like he's free, but then he steps in front of like an electronics store that's got like all these TV windows in there with like a camera facing out, and so his face is on all the screens, and he realizes that no matter what he does, he's not gonna be able to get away. And boom, the movie's over. Chris.
Yeah.
Do you recommend? Oh, sorry. Chris, do you recommend, and what is your grade for Buzzard?
I think I am going to recommend this. Because the character did and got exactly what you would want him to get and do. He's a stupid, stupid person, and he pays the price for it. I'm not saying that compliance and going with the system is always the best way to go, but like when you need to make money and live your life, there are some rules you should follow. And either you are so smart like the other guy that you're absolutely pretentious and lost inside the thrill of doing it, or you're a fucking moron and you think you're better than everybody else. And that is not the case with he does not know a goddamn thing.
No.
And he kind of gets what he deserves fast, because like the police aren't stupid in movies. And I understand why he would think certain things. Like I get why he would think that when she's gone, the problem is gone, because she's the only one that knew him and knew that she asked him to do that. But like what he didn't really understand is that if they only look at the checks if it's a security issue. So he probably would have been all set since no one was fucking looking for him. You do it once and that's it.
Yeah.
But this is what do you think he is? Like 22, something like that?
23, 24 maybe.
And it's just it wasn't difficult to watch, but it was sad because people have been like that in the past. And it's like just don't be a dummy. I did like the ending. There's a little bit of interpretation that you can take into that, and I thought that was pretty neat. But yeah, I'm gonna recommend it. I'm gonna give this I'm gonna give it a B+. I was actually very surprised with how the whole thing went, considering our main character is essentially the bad guy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, at no point are you like meant to root for this kid. That's not what they're going for.
There's really nobody to root for here except maybe the guy at the payday loan place. Because
not your boy Derek.
No, man.
Not your boy in the party zone.
That Derek dude, like we all know people like him, and he's not going anywhere. He's just going to be there in that job, and that's it, because like that's how he looks. That's where he fits. He knows just enough to be able to be smart enough to fit in.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it.
And this other guy doesn't.
No.
So yeah, there we go.
All right. I'm going to recommend it too. It's a very different film than Chameleon Street. This one feels cheap, but it's meant to feel cheap. It's got almost kind of like that. It's got that 2014 indie look, the mumblecore stuff, or like, this isn't a mumblecore film, but like it's got that feel and it's got that look of cheapness to it, which I think plays right along with what they're doing with this and the story that they're telling with and the characters that they're showcasing. So I think all of that works. Its look, its feel, the sludgy metalcore score works really well for it.
Yeah.
I like that we have limited characters, so we're not having to like. I think that was one of the issues I had with the other movies. Like we were introduced to so many different characters that didn't matter. You're not introduced to anybody in this movie that doesn't really matter, and if you are, they're only there for whatever time they need to be there.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think all of that works. It's tough where you don't have somebody to root for, but at the same time, like I get all of that. So I'm gonna recommend it. I'm gonna give it, let's say, I'll give it a B-.
Okay.
I think some of the acting was a little weak on the lead's part. I think for the most part he was good, but like there was a few times where I was just kind of like, all right, man, like you're a parody right now. It's too much.
That's
too much.
Yeah, I could see that.
But yeah, no, overall I like this far better than the other one. It's more my style of film than the other one was. So there you have it. There's the 2 Michigan crime films that were brought to us by Chris. And thank you, Chris, very much for suggesting. Chris has been a fan of the show for many years. And has been a supporter on the Patreon for a long time. So if you want to suggest some movies for us to cover, join our Patreon, send us a message through Patreon, let us know what you'd like us to cover. I think we might be caught up on everything, so if you guys want to send more, please do. If I am wrong, I will let you know. Okay, speaking of wrong, we made Joe watch Sorority House Massacre Part 3. A film that we weren't sure really existed. But he found it.
He watched something.
He says, took a minute, but I found Sorority House Massacre 3. Let's see what Joe thought.
Well, hello, Bill. Hello, Chris. And hello, OTC Nation. It's your boy Joe here, and this week Bill took me to a movie set that you'll recognize from at least a handful of Roger Corman films. Because he made me watch Sorority House Massacre 3. Also known as Hard to Die. Also known as Tower of Terror. Also known as the one that doesn't take place in a sorority house.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Yep.
I realized in searching for this movie that I had, in fact, seen it before. The whole concept of, what if you replaced John McClane in Die Hard with half a dozen sorority girls is what triggered the memory. Because honestly, it's a question worth asking. Like, even if you're not going to like Jim Wynorski's answer. That said, bear in mind I haven't watched this since like the mid-90s, and I don't remember anything beyond the girls and the unfortunate epidermis of Peter Spellos, who plays Orville Ketchum in a handful of these Wynorski films. This movie delves deep into the zeitgeist and asks other probing questions. Questions like, why don't any of these girls own a pair of pants? How did that girl just instinctively know how to use a military-issue M4 assault rifle? I mean, it's not that hard, but she still picked it up and put it to work with like 0 questions or doubt. And most importantly, Jim Wynorski has 108 directing credits on IMDb. Without the video store, how deeply would that number have been beaten down?
Very true.
Probably quite a bit. Give me just a moment here to make sure the protections on my computer are all working and up to date before I start this movie. The website I found it on looks like if I went into it unprotected, my computer would just crumble to dust like it drank out of the wrong Grail cup. From all the malware and whatnot. Normally, I kind of dunk on movies that spend time on a summary of the last movie or movies to catch the audience up, but here I've got no issue. Because in each successive sorority house massacre, there is more revisionist history than insert Republican joke here. What led up to that is 4 girls who look less like sorority girls and more like the girls who hang out behind the Whiskey A Go-Go for the chance to give Duff McKagan a handy in the back alley, and they're doing inventory. In an entire office building that's at least 10 stories tall, overnight, in one night.
Tower of Terror.
Okay.
There you go.
Fine. I'll let this go. It's fine. This is fine. But one of them recognizes Orville Ketchum and is like, oh, he's the guy that was involved in that sorority house massacre a few months ago. Then, within the next 30 seconds, when they ask him what happened, he was like, oh, it was all years ago when Hochstetter, blah, blah, blah. Listen, I get that continuity is not always easy, and if he'd said it was years ago instead of months ago, like at the end of the movie, if there was more than 30 seconds of separation between those two time frames, I'd have let it go. But this is a good example of the issue with all of the massacre movies. Can someone please care about what we're doing here? Anyway, let's strip these ladies down to uncomfortable-looking lingerie and start counting office supplies. I read that this movie is way more intentionally making fun of itself and movies like it, and all the in-jokes and references, and fucking spare me, huh? Just spare me. The issue I have with this movie is the same issue I have with wrestlers like Orange Cassidy. I'm sorry if that offends you. I'm
offends the
not
shit out of me.
trying to yuck your yum, anyone.
Sure you are.
I'm not even a wrestler. I'm a
yucker.
manager. Like, yeah, I've wrestled a few, dozens of matches in my career, but I'm predominantly a manager. But if anyone ever threw a 1/3 speed kick at my shin like that, I would potato them in the face and deal with the consequences backstage later. This movie keeps throwing lazy 1/3 speed jokes at me, and I am annoyed with it. I'll give them this, though. They knew their plot had all the substance and longevity of a stick of fruit stripe gum, and they filled their time with the girls showering. So I guess if I have to sit through this, it's better to watch 5 girls take 5 different showers than if the girls had to kill time by discussing the geopolitical climate in the early 90s or the finer points of the ISO 9001 standardization management system. I had to Google that shit. Forrest Ackerman has an oddly large part in the movie as the exposition guy. He's like a doctor or something, and they keep calling him to get answers, and it doesn't make any sense. And Forrest J. Ackerman is a lot of things, and most of them are pretty good. I found him to be a pretty delightful person, but an actor is not one of those things. And in this movie, that's not saying much. Yeah. The whole third act of this movie is just the girls, who have all split up, roaming around the building, taking different approaches to their survival, and Orville Ketchum very obviously trying to save a gaggle of floozies once again without ever expressing, hey, ladies, I'm trying to help you here. I know I'm not a bear or anything. You'd probably be safer there. But just please don't stab me multiple times. Please don't choke me out. Please don't give me a baker's dozen knees to the balls or push me off the roof of this 10-story building. That would be great. Well, guess what? It only took 3 slumber parties and 2.5 sorority houses for anyone, to finally say, hey, there is a handful of us and one of him. Let's gang up. And oh, right, I know where a gun is. Mind you, she dies shortly thereafter, but she still had the best idea anyone's had in any of these movies. Once again, one of the girls is the one who's actually possessed by the ghost of Hochstetter and doing the killing. Orville Ketchum saves the day after proving himself to be tougher than Terry Funk, Harley Race, and Haku combined. Once again, I've never been happier to be done with a franchise. Here's the thing. The good. At least they leaned into a direction here with more intent. It's a little more focused. They set out to make a bad, goofy movie, but like a good, bad, goofy movie. And, more than any of the others, they succeeded in that. As much as I hate to admit it, and I didn't really like the movie, this was the most fun of the Sorority House Massacre movies, simply because it chose a lane. Then there's the bad. I actually wanted to like these. I really did. I bitch a lot about these made badly on purpose movies from the last decade, and I think these movies might have been the catalyst for that. And to me, that's just unforgivable. Sorority House Massacre, aka Hard to Die, fails. Not as bad as it could or should have. The franchise as a whole, just kind of one big missed opportunity. Regardless, Bill, what's on the docket for next week, homie?
I think we've never had him do the Wrong Turn movies, right?
No, I don't think we've talked about them on the show at all.
All right, yeah, let's do Wrong Turn.
TC Nation, you heard the man. I'll be back with that next week. And until then, be good, everyone.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
I have nothing to follow that up with. I was going to try to follow it up with something good and then realize.
No, it just sounds like that was just bleh.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
All right. Reverend Scott. Yeah, all right. I wanted to say something I'm just very suddenly just completely out of energy, so
I get it. Anybody that hasn't watched Late Night with the Devil, get on that.
Oh, for
That
sure.
is one of my. This is a year with a Ghostbusters movie in it, but it may be my favorite movie of the year so far.
It is my favorite movie of the year.
Gee, if only someone had been able to tell you about how damn good that was before it came out on streaming.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
When did that happen?
Scott discovered it. Sorry, we have to make sure we give him all of the things because I hadn't heard of it before he brought it up.
What?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Suck it, Reverend Scott.
Yeah, I don't know why our listeners hate us so much.
I do.
I do too. I must admit.
Hey there, Bill and Chris. This is Reverend Scott.
Oh, yeah. I know him.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to see that first he's still alive and that people are finally recognizing that he's actually really good.
First of all, what the fuck? Second of all, I'm glad to see you're taking my really good movie recommendations seriously. I wonder if that'll happen again this week after I tell you about this South African film I watched last weekend. Kind of reminded me of John Wick. But unfortunately for you, if you thought it was new movie review time, you got scammed.
Oh.
Because we have to take a detour into my movie neck of the woods, the late 90s. That's right, it was a Patreon pick week.
Speaking of scams, I'm pretty sure we got scammed this week on the movies.
So,
starting with the first Patreon pick of
Disturbing Behavior, 1998.
So tell me something cool about this flick, Bill.
So this is directed by David Nutter.
Bill.
What? That's funny.
Oh, grow up. Tell me something legit.
Just exactly what you would think of if you were to explain to me a 90s horror movie that's short on information and long on putting pretty people in front of you to look at.
Yeah.
Now that I can understand. I actually watched this movie back in the day, mainly due to the hilarious movie trailer line.
Will you go out with me?
No, Chug.
Unfortunately, I had to manually edit that clip to make it sound more like the far superior trailer version, by the way. For a short movie, they sure took their time on line delivery. And look, I've seen this, you've seen this. How about we just kind of fast forward through some of the old small talk and get to our favorite parts? That trailer line was mine. How about you, Bill?
She goes to give him the beej, and he gets horny, which means he gets red in his eyes and snaps her neck in a very violent manner.
Yeah, that confused me.
I know, Chris. Why wait that long to snap her neck? We may never know. But anyway, no one in this movie seemed that concerned about the actual problem.
They're having issues because anytime one of these kids gets horny, they murder somebody or beat the shit out of somebody.
If we're talking programming, that's an app-breaking bug.
Then there's that janitor that went around all day pretending to be mentally deficient. Bill didn't quite understand that either.
We never realized why he tried to do it in the first place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's pretty frustrating.
Plus, every character was just a large, flat piece of wood used for baking sweets.
All of the characters are very cookie board.
Yeah.
I totally agree. But there is one saving
Cookie
grace.
board? This movie only runs less than 90 minutes. It's only 83, 84
That
minutes.
was a merciful gift.
Although, if there were a 90 to 100 minute director's cut version with a little bit more explanation of, I don't know why they wanted this all to happen, what their motivation was in some sort of fashion, I would definitely watch that. Irregardless, I give Disturbing Behavior a nostalgia grade of B. Strong nostalgia. Couldn't tell you if I like the movie at all. I don't remember. The review gets an A-, and that's partially to say I'm sorry about the second Patreon pick you reviewed.
The only thing I think I've ever seen that's more 90s than Disturbing Behavior is Cruel Intentions 2.
3 episodes for TV condensed into a movie with nudity added. I mean, I appreciate the effort, guys, but this does not interest me in the least. I want to review your review of this fucking movie even less than you wanted to review this fucking movie. But Bill texted me last night saying I was going to review this review and tough shit because he's the quote-unquote queen bitch around here.
Yeah. Bitchiest of the bitches. I get whatever I want, whenever I want it, whatever I say you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Chris, can you tell me a bit about this movie?
Amy Adams is Not Sarah Michelle Gellar.
That's fair. What else?
It looks bad. It's made fast. Mostly it just looks cheap. A lot of 90s movies, genre style, look real cheap. And this is the epitome of that. And no thank you. I am not a fan of that.
Cool. I think I'm all up to speed on that then.
I don't want to see that anymore.
And I don't want to talk about this anymore.
No.
Me neither. But I'm sure they tried their best with what they were given. They really gave it their all. They tried hard. So when you tell me your final opinion of this movie, Chris, just maybe sugarcoat it just a bit.
Yeah, I'm not going to recommend this, and this might be one of the worst movies we've watched this year. I'm going to give it an F.
Close enough. I give Cruel Intentions 2 an A- for its torture factor on you. And I give the review a B.
Sorry, there's a Cruel Intentions 3.
That doesn't surprise me.
And I think I'm going to watch it.
We know, Bill. We know. Okay, luckily for you, now we get to talk about what I've been watching. The South African-made John Wick flick starring Pennywise himself, Bill Skarsgård. 'Cause I saw Boy Kills World. And if you've seen the trailer, you have a good idea of the basic story of this. The boy lives in a totalitarian city just run by a horrible family led by X-Men's own Jean Grey. After she and her goons murder the boy's mother and sister right in front of them, his tongue is cut out and both ears are poked in with a red-hot iron. He can't hear or speak. He's all alone, almost dead, and he's saved by a shaman, played by Yayan Ruhan. I don't know. You definitely know the guy if you saw him. He's literally in John Wick 3, multiple raid flicks. Pretty sure he's a stunt coordinator and a fight coordinator. I'm sure he's the reason the fighting in this movie is so fucking brutal. The shaman spends years with this boy, putting him through fucking hell, grueling training to kill the woman that killed his family. That boy grows up to be a ripped Bill Skarsgård. The transition scene from boy to man is, well, it's just really fucking cool how they do it. It's almost as if they meet in person. In fact, so much of the film is highly stylized while still being grounded, yet besides the almost swamp-like woods that he's been training in, we find that the town and city that are nearby are just completely run down and disgusting.
It's dirty, it's dank.
And the whole movie you're treated with the narration from Chris's favorite burger flipper himself, H. John Benjamin.
I know that.
If you're wondering why it's that particular voice, I won't spoil that, but just know that there's a very specific reason within the confines of this film. And to be honest, no offense to Bill Skarsgård, but I love that he's mute. There's also a closed caption version of this film available because without that narration, you really wouldn't know what the fuck he was thinking through this entire film.
My favorite part of the whole thing is, I can't say.
So Mr. Skarsgård eventually has to spring into action and try and take down the evil Vanderkoy family. Sharto Copley, I think his name is. I don't know, Chappie and District 9 guy. He's part of the family and a few other people that you may recognize. So that's when this becomes a nearly video game-esque type of movie with various stages, set pieces, and different enemies and teammates. There's some really cool teammates. And the fighting, to be honest, the fighting is fucking terrible.
This is not good.
No.
This is bad.
Yeah.
This is very bad.
I'm just fucking with you. It's absolutely amazing. It's brutal as all fuck. And if you die quickly in this, then you're lucky. And I can guarantee you H. John Benjamin never once says
that no, you don't murder people. I mean, Jesus, come on.
But is Boy Kills World just a movie about a boy killing the world? Well, for about 90% of it is. But what the fuck did you expect?
Good point. Good point.
Fair enough.
It does an impressive job at those fights, mainly because it has an excellent sense of humor for the entire time. The boy can read lips, and there's one particular man that has a pretty bushy beard, so he can't quite understand him. So he sits there trying to picture the exact things that he thinks he's saying as he's lip reading, and it's generally fucking ridiculous. There's also several twists and turns throughout the movie and many character-defining moments. And had there been no more than just a serious revenge action flick, I might have said,
this is so meh that it's just a thing.
But between the style, the narration, the humor, and trying to keep you on your toes within the story, I think Boy Kills World succeeded in exactly what it set out to do. So I give Boy Kills World a B+, and I recommend you check it out. If you love to laugh as you cringe at brutal violence, then this shit is for you. But this segment is no longer for you, because it's over. But make sure you tune in to Outside the Cinema next week when I cut off Bill from his medicine.
You're my connection for my weed dealer. How am I going to get my weed?
And Chris finds out about the box.
I need to show you the box, Chris.
What box?
All that and so much more of
what's in the box?
But until then, peace and love, guys. Holy shit with Reverend Scott.
I can't really recommend this because it's so mediocre that it's just like, don't even bother.
I agree.
Well, there you have it. Is Scott going to take credit for us watching Fallout 2?
Probably.
Because we wouldn't have known about it unless he talked about it. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Not you, Chris.
Yeah, I know. It's the other
Patreon,
one.
Chris.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/Outside the Cinema if you guys would like to send us some films. If you're already a member, send us some films. If you'd like to sign up and become a member, send us some films. All of the above. Thank you for the support. It helps keep the show on the air. So, yeah, we don't know what we're doing next week yet because I do have to see if we have any more Patreon picks. Otherwise, we'll let you know. Follow us on Instagram at OTCbill at Cthulhu. We do have a Facebook group. If you want to join that, go over to group, search Outside the Cinema. You'll find us there. Pretty much it.
Yeah.
Weather's going to be nice today. Enjoy it. Unless where you live, the weather isn't nice. And don't enjoy it.
That's a good point.
Yeah. All right, guys. Have a good week. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.